Hi, good morning and welcome to the video for cybersecurity certifications. In the previous video, we have discussed the job profiles and we had tried to map them with the certifications themselves. Here we are going to discuss more on the certifications, what those certifications mean, how the exams are conducted, and their price points. So, importance of a cybersecurity certification. First and foremost, when I see a certification, I look at it from three different aspects. The first is the training itself, which allows me to gain the knowledge, which allows me to understand the aspects of security or whatever the certification is there for. The second aspect is the exam itself. How do I need to prepare myself for the exam, and how do I need to approach the exam? How do I need to ensure that I pass in my first attempt? And the third aspect is the certification itself, which allows me to be eligible to apply for a particular job role. So, obtaining a cybersecurity certification ensures or shows to the organization that you're applying to that you do have that prerequisite knowledge and you should be shortlisted for an interview. The knowledge that you have gained during the training will help you when you attend that interview and when you attempt to answer the questions asked to you. So these certifications are designed for a specific role. For example, a forensic investigation certificate will teach you how to investigate a crime scene forensically, a digital crime scene for a matter of fact. A certified ethical hacking course will teach you about penetration testing. So it is you who's going to decide which certification you require and then get certified on it. Of course, a fresher with a cybersecurity certification will have better employment opportunities because they can showcase their knowledge with the certification that they already have. Even professionals who want to enhance their careers can get into managerial or advanced certifications to improve on their knowledge and get promoted in their job profiles. So, cybersecurity certifications can be classified in three different aspects. The first one being the foundational level, then the managerial level, and the advanced level. In the previous video, we just had a small overview. Here we are going to discuss about what the certification covers, how the exams are conducted, and the price points for each and every exam. So let's start with the foundational certifications. We start off with CCNA, which is the basic certification for networking. So the CCNA routing and switching certification, basically it helps you build your networking career. You will join an organization as a networking engineer where you can help the organization establish their routing, the pathing of how data packets will travel across the network. This certification covers all the basic concepts that you require to understand networking. The basic requirements for this certification are that the candidate must have a bachelor's degree, but apart from that, there are no other prerequisites. So it's just that you need a bachelor's degree and then you can apply, you can study for this, you can undergo a training, and then you can attempt the exam. The certification provider obviously is Cisco, so the knowledge that is limited to this training and certification is for Cisco devices only. The exam fees for this certification is approximately $325. The exam, when it is conducted, it has around 50 to 60 odd questions which need to be answered in 90 minutes. The type of questions that you're going to get is multiple choice questions where you have a question and 4 answers and you have to choose the correct answers among those. Drag and drop, where you have to click on an object and drag it to its appropriate place, probably an architectural diagram, and you have to, let's say, pick on a router and place it into a particular position. If you place it correctly, you answer the question correctly, otherwise it's wrong. And a simulator where there could be a configuration, you need to configure it in a particular manner and then check whether the configuration is correct or not. The pass mark is around 800 to 850 out of a possible 1000 marks. So each question will have a different weightage depending on the depth of the question, depending on the difficult level of the question or the difficulty level of the question, which would then count towards your marks. And if you score 800 to 850, that's when you clear the exam. The job roles, as we have discussed over here, would be more on the network administrator side or a network engineer side, depending on the level of experience that you have. The salaries that are expected from these job roles in the US are around $55,000 to $90,000 annually. The next one is the CompTIA certification called Security Plus. CompTIA is also a global certification authority for InfoSec courses. So this certification teaches candidates on how to secure applications, networks, and devices. It focuses on hands-on practical skills in the field of network security. I have trained people on this certification myself, so I know this certification is quite hands-on. It deals with the concepts to the core. It helps you understand the concepts, and then in the practical hands-on demo, you need to execute the practical yourself so that you can gain that knowledge The recommended level for a candidate to attempt this training would be at least around 2 years of experience in the IT sector. In addition, if you have already been certified for Network Plus certification from CompTIA, which is the baseline networking certification, this is also a preferred way to go for this certification. As said, CompTIA is the certificate provider and the exam fees for this certification is $339. The exam is quite simple, 90 questions in 90 minutes, that's 1 minute per question. It sounds like a lot of time, but believe me, the questions can be a little bit confusing, can be a little bit lengthy, so you will require all those 90 minutes to answer those questions, especially when they're tricky and they're technical in nature. The questions would be multiple choice and performance based. The pass mark for this exam is around 750 points out of a possible 900. The job profiles for this kind of a certification is when you want to apply for a security analyst position or a security engineer's position where you're going to analyze some data to understand and figure out what problems are ongoing in the organization. The average annual salary of this person would be around $72,000. Then comes the CEH or the Certified Ethical Hacker training from EC Council. Now, this is a very well-known course. And also, EC Council is a global certifying authority, very well accepted across a lot of countries. This is an offensive certification. So here you're basically trying to become a penetration tester. You're taught how to hack. You're taught how to attack a particular organization from an ethical hacker's perspective. So the job profiles that you'll be looking here are of a pen tester, where you go into an organization, you test their security controls or you test their devices, find out flaws within them, and then provide recommendations of how to plug those flaws or mitigate those flaws and improve the security of that organization. It is recommended that you have 2 years of experience at least in networking or security for these to attempt this kind of trainings and certifications. Again, a basic understanding of networking, maybe a little bit of applications, operating systems would be necessary before attempting this certification. The certification provider is EC Council, and the exam fees for this certification is $500. So the exam here would be 125 questions, which needs to be attempted in 4 hours, and you will only get multiple choice questions in here. Now for CEH, there are 2 exams. One is the multiple choice questions, and the second is a practical exam where you need to solve some given problems to you in an iLab scenario, and if you are able to solve them properly, you then get certified for CEH practical. The cutoff varies from 65 to 85% depending on the questions that you have answered and the weightage associated with each and every question. As said, the job roles would be as a penetration tester or a security engineer, and your salaries would start from around $90,000 annually. Then comes the CND or the Certified Network Defender, also from EC Council. Now this is more on the network defense side. So here again the job roles would be where there's a network that you have and you're going to try to secure the network and the communications that are going to travel over the network. So you need to be a network administrator, a network security engineer, or in a similar profile to understand how networks work, and then you're going to attempt to secure those networks. The certificate provider again is EC Council, and the certification is placed a little bit below CEH. So it becomes network, defense, then CEH, where you're going to become a penetration tester. The exam fees for this certification is $350. The exam is of 100 questions to be answered in 4 hours. Again, it's just a multiple choice questions. So you get a question with 4 options, you answer the correct one, and you move on to the next question. The pass percentage again varies from 60 to 85% depending on the questions answered and the weightage of that question. Job roles to be applied: network defense technician, CND analyst, or a security analyst from a network perspective. Salaries would range from $65,000 to $75,000 per annum. Then comes the forensic investigator course, which is exactly what it is: digital forensic investigator. This will help you understand how computers work, where data is stored, and how you can retrieve that data to investigate a crime that has taken place. So the candidate must have at least 2 years of experience in the information security sector. They need a good understanding of how networks work, how computers work, how operating systems work, how they store data, the location where that data is stored, how databases work, how those databases store those data, and so on and so forth. This certification is sought after mainly in the law enforcement areas, but there are a few corporates that offer forensic investigation as a service, especially when a corporate gets compromised and they want to conduct their own investigations. The certification provider for this is also EC Council, and the exam fees are $500. This is an advanced level certification, so understanding of applications, networks, and operating systems is a must before you attempt this. The exam is quite similar, 150 questions in 4 hours. Again, it's just a multiple choice question exam. The cutoff again is from 60% to 85% depending on the questions and the weightage of each and every question. Job roles: IT security specialist, network security pro. The job roles: forensic investigators, law enforcement agencies, security specialists, homeland security jobs, and your salaries would be around $88,000 and above. Alright, now let's talk about the managerial level certifications. COBIT stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technologies. It's a certification that will give a candidate an in-depth knowledge of the framework which COBIT is all about, and the framework helps you manage and govern enterprise IT environments. Now this is an advanced certification, so around 8 years of managerial experience is suggested before you attempt the COBIT 5 certification to understand all the aspects and to help you implement the framework properly. The certification certificate provider is ISACA. The exam fees are around $175. Now this is a small exam, 50 questions, but in 40 minutes. So you really have to be on your toes. You have to know the knowledge. There's very limited time to think, and you have to be fast in your answers. The pass percentage is 50%. The job roles associated with this certification would be to when you apply for information security manager or as a security consultant or a cybersecurity manager, and your roles and responsibilities would be to govern the IT space that the organization owns. So all the servers, desktops, the network, the data flows, the databases, everything, and how it needs to be managed and how it needs to be governed in a secure manner. Annual salaries would be around $100,000 plus. Then the CISM, also called as CISM. It stands for Certified Information Security Manager, and as the name suggests, it's a security manager certification. It helps the candidate in understanding the relationship between business goals and information security. So now you're going into the space where you're not only technical in nature, but you also have to understand the business needs, the goals of the business, and you have to align the information security of your infrastructure along with the business needs and the business goals. So it is your inputs that are going to go to the management to see if the infrastructure is aligned to the business goals or if the infrastructure or the business goals need any fine-tuning. Around 5 years of work experience is recommended in the information security field for attempting the CISM. Out of the 5 years, the candidate must have a background as an information security manager for 3 years. So you have some experience as a manager, you have implemented those things yourselves, which will give you a better understanding, and then you attempt the certification. Again, providing by ISACA, and the exam fees for ISACA members is $575. For non-members, it is $760. The exam is where you have to answer 150 questions in 4 hours. Quite a bit of time, but questions are going to be scenario-based questions where they're going to give you a lot of scenarios. You have to think about it and you have to give the most probable and the correct answer for that particular scenario. The pass mark is 450 out of 800. Your job profiles would be either a risk manager or a risk consultant, analyzing the business requirements to the infrastructure security that you have, and to identify if there are any risks associated with the infrastructure, highlight those risks, and then put in security controls and manage those controls in a way where security is mitigated. Your average salaries would be around $88,000 and above. Then the CISA or the CISA, the Certified Information Systems Auditor certification. It not only looks into security, but it also looks into auditing and controls in information systems. This is a highly reputed certificate, and you gain a better understanding of governance, regulations, and auditing your information landscape. Again, a minimum of 5 years of work experience in the field of information systems, auditing, control, or security is necessary. Now here the question would be, what's the difference? Security is where you're technical in nature. You have done, let's say, a vulnerability assessment or a penetration test. You have implemented firewalls. You have architected security. Controls are all about the security controls that you're going to implement, like firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, data loss prevention systems, maybe even UTMs and whatnot. So experience in architecting or implementing those controls in an effective manner, mitigating your security or your vulnerabilities that you have identified in the organization. And auditing would basically mean about looking at compliance to ensure that everything is in place, you're compliant with, let's say, ISO 27001 guidelines or the policies that you have created yourself, and everything is working in order. So it's more of a checklist where you're going to just check everything is in place and you're conforming to standards. This certification is also provided by ISACA, and the exam fees for ISACA members are $575, whereas non-ISACA members will have to pay $760 for the certification. 150 questions again in 4 hours, multiple choice questions, scenario based. So you have to really understand this real world scenarios of what controls and what audit mechanisms should be in place. Pass mark is 450 out of 800. Your job roles would be mainly becoming an auditor or a senior auditor, a director for information security, information audit manager, or an information technology consultant, where you provide intelligence on how the company should implement their infrastructure. Average salaries would be $103,000 and above. Then comes the CRISC, also called as CRISC, Certified in Risk and Information Systems Control. Certification helps the candidate design and maintain information systems controls for an organization. This is one of the most sought after certifications as far as risk management is concerned. In Europe and in US, if you have this kind of certifications, you automatically qualify for a risk manager or a security risk manager or a information security consultant kind of a role. You should have a minimum of 3 years of experience in the field of IS controls. That means information security controls. You should have knowledge about firewalls. You should know about how to mitigate risks, how to identify risks in the first place, risk analysis, risk management, and after which you're going to implement security controls to mitigate that risk or bring it to acceptable levels. At this point in time, you will also be responsible to create policies revolving those risks and how you want to calculate those risks and treat those risks in their lifetime. Certificate provider again is ISACA, $575 for ISACA members, $760 for non-ISACA members for the exam fees. A similar question, 150 questions to be answered in 4 hours, multiple choice based on performances. So they may give you a scenario where you have to perform a risk analysis and provide a report and a solution based on your findings. Again, the pass mark is 450 out of 800. The job profiles associated, as discussed earlier, are the IT risk management professionals, where they're going to identify risks, treat those risks, calculate, analyze, maybe do a business impact analysis to ascertain how the organization is going to be affected. And then you will also be looking at compliances as far as these job roles are concerned. Average annual salary would be $119,000 and above. Moving on to advanced level certification. Now, this is where we come across the CISSP or the CISSP certification, Certified Information Systems Security Professional. This is the gold standard of all certifications. If you have this certificate, you can basically be assured of a job in the IT world. Now, just to qualify, you'll have to have 5 years of experience in the information security field. There are 8 domains that are specified by CISSP, and you have to prove that you have knowledge and you have work experience of around 5 years in at least 2 of those domains. If you do not have those kind of experiences, you can still attempt the exam, but you become an associate of ISC Square, which means that you get 6 years to accomplish the 5 years of experience requirement for this certification. Before taking up the CISP certification, it is suggested that the candidate clears all the intermediate level certifications. Not all, but some of them. In fact, I have seen people do the other way around. They qualify for CISSP, they give the exam. Once you're CISSP, the CISA or CISM, CISA or CISM exams are way easier to crack. But you need to have that kind of experience. I have seen people with 15 years of experience and more fail at this certification in the first attempt. The certificate provider is ISC Square. The exam fees is $699. Like I said, this certification is most sought after, the gold standard. In fact, there's hardly any other certifications after this that you might want to do. The questions, now the exam has changed. If it is the English version that you're giving, it's 150 questions to be answered in 3 hours. If it is the non-English exam that you're attempting, then it is 250 questions in 6 hours. It's a marathon, and if you're opting for the 6-hour exam, you need to plan it really well. It sounds really easy, but the questions are quite tough. They're scenario based and the answers are quite confusing as well. You would get multiple choice questions, you would get drag and drop, and you might get simulators as well. The pass mark is 700 out of 1000, but each question has a different weightage. So it depends on which questions are asked of you and which questions you have answered correctly. The job roles associated with this certification would be anything and everything in information security at the managerial level and above. So information security manager, risk manager, information system security officer, the CISO role, the CISO, chief information security officer. Any role that you might think of as a risk from a risk compliance strategy could be achievable after this kind of a certification. The average annual salary is $108,000 for this certification. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.